All right, let's do part 20 of the step-by-step restoration of a Singer Model 337. What I'm going to do for number 20 is set the presser foot height. I had this all taken out to polish the presser bar and to be able to remove the lifter lever. And I put it back in and just kind of eyeballed it, but I want to set it at the proper height. And in the service and adjustment manual, it said that the height of the bottom of the presser foot should be 0.290 to 0.300 inches above the plate, not above the feed dogs, above the plate. So you have to lift this up, make sure you got your needle plate in here and that it's flat all the way around. You want to rotate the handle towards you to a point where those feed dogs are below the plate. So you don't want the feed dog sticking up above the plate. So you lift this up, and then I usually turn this tension or knob or pressure knob for the plate, turn it left so it's real loose, and then I'm going to, there's one set screw here that holds the needle bar, so I'm going to loosen that, and maybe you could see that the needle bar is loose now, and it just fell down, and that's what you want, because when you set the height, you have to also align it with the feed dogs at the same time, because it's just the one screw. So you got to get the height and the alignment proper. So back to the 0.290 to 0.300. I usually try and adjust these at the higher end of the numbers that they give you, because people sew thicker fabrics nowadays, and if you want to get cuff a pair of jeans or make a quilt or something like that, usually the higher, the more space you got under the presser foot, the better. So I'm going to shoot for the 0.300 on this. And I know from looking it up and in the past that a US quarter of a dollar is 0.069 inches thick. So if I do that times 4 quarters is 0.276 thick. So that gets me real close to my height. So I'm 0.014 to 0.024 away. So the 276 plus the 0.24 would put me at 300, perfect. I also know a dime is like 0.5. So that would put me over. That would put me like at 0.325 or something. So that's one of the reasons that I bought a feeler gauge with all these different thickness piece of metals. And one of them is 0.24. So I've got that pulled out. So I want to put 4 quarters plus that under the presser foot to set the height. So I'm going to lift that up against the spring pressure, get my quarters under here, and you can take this whole assembly out, the top half, if you want, so that you don't have any pressure. I don't bother to do that anymore. So I've got my 4 quarters under there, and then I'm going to take my feeler gauge and I'm going to get it set under there from the side so that it's all the way across the quarter, and try and get my quarters in that presser foot lined up so that it's centered everything. The quarters are centered underneath the foot. So that's going to be my height. With this up, you saw that move around. You want to maneuver that down. You can see how that bar, maneuver it down so that it's at the position, come on, there, right there. So you want this to go down as far as it'll go against the lever, like that, and then raise it, put it back down, just like that. See how it's moving a little bit? So you want to get it up. Where the side of this bracket goes in a slot right there. You'll see it when you do it. And every time I've ever done this, when I get everything set to the right height, let's see, it's still good, yeah. There's just an edge of the presser bar, just the very top is sticking out above this bracket with the set screw. So I've got my 0.300 height, good. Got the little bracket resting on here, a little bit sticking up out of there. Now I've got to center it on the feed dogs, and I can't see the feed dogs, but what I can see is the slots in the needle plate for the feed dogs. And if I stand right in front of it here with this covers off, I can look at the edge of the presser foot and I can compare it to the edges of the slot. And I can get very, very close on this. So I think that that's lined up straight. When I look straight on, it looks good. When I look at the beginning and the end of the slots compared to the edge of the feed presser foot, everything looks lined up. It looks parallel to those slots. I know my height is good, so I'm going to go in here and tighten up that set screw. And I want it good and snug. I don't want it vibrating loose down the road, but I don't want to strip the screw or anything. Then when I feel like I've got it, I'm going to pull out my coins and my feeler gauge. I'm going to check this mechanism. Does it lower down properly? Does it come up properly? Let's go down and up. And it looks good. It looks really good to me. Now with it down, this is the time for me to check this. Let me tighten that up a little bit. That was a little bit loose. You still seeing that? Let me look through the camera here. Yeah, looks pretty good. So now it gives me a real good chance to look at the edge of that presser foot along the edge of the slot for the feed dog. And it really looks even. The space between the two look even all the way along. So if I want, I can turn my hand wheel some more and get the feed dogs up a little bit, and I can look at it again to make sure that it's not cranked left or right. It really looks good to me. So then I would turn this tension knob to the right more, about halfway down, so that I've got some tension. and that you can adjust for what your fabric and what you're sewing. You know, real light for delicate fabric, stronger for heavy fabric. So that looks like a pretty normal feel. Feels normal. They still look lined up here, and I've got my height that looks good. And if I want to check, I can, you know, put everything back under there, lower the feed dogs because the height should be above the plate, not the dogs, and slip those back under there. They go real easy. And then take my .024, and it's going to be tougher to get in there. So I might have to work it in there. Line up the quarters again, get it all centered, and it's good. So I feel like I'm really close, if not spot on, that .30. And I guess if you didn't like a dime, I told you, a dime is more than twice as thick as this piece of metal. So if you only had like 4 quarters, and you know that's .276, so you're a little low. But hey, if you can live with that height, or if it came loose and you just wanted to, get it roughly set so you could finish your project, you don't have a feeler gauge, that's the way to do. My Canadian friend, he just went to a shop one time, like a metal shop, and he paid them to make him little cubes at all different heights. And then he just etched into the cube what the height was, because he did so many machines that, if the manual said it was like .295, he just would grab his aluminum cube and stick it in there and drop the feed dog on it, tighten it up, and boom, he was done. It took him about 10 seconds. So that's what you do when you do this kind of stuff for a living. But that's how I set the height of the feed dog. Check it again that it's nice and straight. We got it snugged up. So we're done. I would be finished with the stuff in here, but I haven't sewn, so I don't know if I'm going to need needle bar adjustments or anything else. I'm not going to put the cover on right now. And I'm finished up with that. That's the end. I guess that's the end of, I was just wondering if there's anything else I wanted to say, but I don't think so. So that's the end of part 20